Greetings there, my fellow beavers. Rodamon here. Thank you for tuning in to Timberborn 1.0. Episode 3, Controlling the River Flow. So we'll have 2 lumberjack flags down here, and the intention is to build a forester in this area to reforest this southern part of the zone for oak and other things. Oh, and here's our first chipped teeth. So Soljan here got chipped teeth as a result of working as a lumberjack, which reduces his cutting chance when working as a lumberjack. And in order to fix that, he just goes to the grind wheel and sharpens his teeth back up. All right, at this point, I don't have any builders. Everyone is working in an invention role, which isn't, like, ideal necessarily. Because with no builders and haulers, things kind of grind to a stop. So what I'm going to do in lieu is pause my berry flags. That's 1 builder back. And then pause one of these lumberjack flags, because most of the wood up here has been cut. There's a little bit of wood left, but I'm not fretting about that wood. All right, we are 14 science away from having levees. And I'm going to be building out a lot of levees. I'm going to try to design engineering projects using levees. So the current plan right now that we have well-being and a sawmill, is, well, all right. I still need to hook up the sawmill, so build sawmill is still the priority, and I'm going to be building that with levees. But then, once we have the sawmill, I want to start working towards long-term, larger engineering projects for, like, diverting bad water and surviving longer droughts. So that's going to be a big drive. And as you can see, as soon as the edges of this section are cleared for trees, I've been putting in roads to increase movement speed around here as well. All right, so we have our first science points for the levee. I'm going to unlock it. And I'm planning on putting 3 levees here to be able to hook up the power wheel. So what I'm doing essentially is narrowing this river with levees. And then I'll be able to build a power, an axle on top of the levee once the levees is done. And eventually it's going to look something like this, where we're going to have like another power wheel there, and then probably levees in this section to bring the river down to a 4 wide, rather than like the 8 wide or 6 wide or whatever it is. Okay, we don't have a lot of food. I don't think I really need to change any priorities at the moment, though. We're doing okay for food, even if we don't have a ton of stockpiled. I don't think we're going to run out, which is good. And with the 4 inventors, we should find ourselves getting a lot more science a lot more quickly, which is good. Because I'm going to absolutely put it to good use. So this is how the sawmill is going to be hooked up, but I'm not putting this last axle here. I can place it down, but I don't want to build it just yet, because it will physically block access to build this levee, which controls the flow. Now, with that said, building these levees will reduce the total volume of the river here, but this river, this shallow river, is not going to be our long-term water storage because of evaporation. Because, I mean, right now it's like at, let's say 30%. And obviously, the droughts get up to like 30 days. It would totally evaporate the river even if we weren't touching it as a water source. So it's not a good long-term solution for water storage. You want cubes of water, not flat plains of water. Cubes last longer. So we need water depth, not width. So we have about a day and a half left at the drought. Still building these levees. Amassing a good amount of wood over here. I might prioritize this with haulers because these lumberjack flags are filling up. It's a very inefficient run from the Folktails District Center. But regardless, I'd rather prioritize it and have it run quick and smooth. And I'm also going to put a lumberjack flag. I'll plop it there. I'm just like moving it, nudging it. Maybe I'll... Hold on. That's not a great spot. So I'm essentially preparing to make planks, which is one of the most important building resources that you can have as soon as we're able, once the water starts moving again, once it starts flowing again. The next science thing I want to unlock is the Forester for 30 science points. And the intention is to put a Forester... let's put it here. Now, we obviously don't have the 7 planks to be able to afford it. But as soon as the lumber mill is running, we can start milling. The other thing I might want to do is to hook up a second lumber mill. And I'm going to put this as the lowest priority. But 2 lumber mills, because on hard difficulty, you have a lot of droughts. And the extended droughts also means that you aren't going to have running water very often. So we are going to want to transition away from water up to, like, wind to deal with the whole, like, water flow shortage. Which means in the times where we have flowing water, we really need to optimize the amount of work that we do with that for now. So 2 lumber mills might make sense in that case. So what my builders are going to be doing is just delivering the logs for this Forester and then putting in a pause until the planks are ready. And with that researched, the plan is to plant a hell of a lot of oaks once I have the capacity for it. Also, I'd like to cut down that birch tree. So I'm going to kind of force my lumberjacks to go after that birch tomorrow morning. Cutting down that, like, one birch that's just kind of, like, hanging on. And then switching back over to oak. Okay. With the levees built, I can unpause that power shaft. The next thing I want to unlock is stairs. Stairs obviously requires planks as well, but stairs is going to give me access to be able to move around the map without being restricted only to the sections that have natural slopes. Is this birch marked for cutting? It is now. I don't think it was. Alright, nothing to do in range, so let's put this all back. Okay, so the birch is gone, placed with oaks. And this here might be enough oaks to satisfy our wood needs once they've matured. So I don't think we're going to need more oaks than that. That would be my guess. But it might not hurt if we have the free land to put more in. Alright, so now they're building the lumber mill. And once we have the lumber mill built, I'll start planning, like, for lack of a better term, mega projects. Because we're going to need some mega projects to be able to survive long term. Alright, so I'm unlocking stairs. And with stairs, I can create ramps here and, like, here to be able to cross the river. Or at least go into the river, which is a big deal. Because we can get our fur wet, and then we can traverse around the map a lot more easily. So, for instance, I could gain access to all these oak trees, which is an immense amount of wood that's just sort of stuck up there. So building ramps. This set of stairs is going to be the highest priority, and then this set of stairs is going to be like a lowest priority. And I'm going to have lots of other stairs around the map, giving me access to more wood, more resources, metal, etc., etc. And also building access to build mega projects and the like. So we have less than a day left of drought. The water level... it's not going to run dry. So the reason I'm checking is if we did exhaust all the water in this river, we would have drought conditions for the crops that we got, which could be bad for the crops that we got, right? Like, some crops don't like to be dried out. Some crops die instantly. But that's not any of the crops that we currently have, which is good. So we're aiming to get the second lumber mill up and then prepare to make planks. So the current priority right now is prepare to make mass planks and plan mega projects. I'm just collecting the berries that I can. Good. Oh, another chipped teeth. No, not oaks there. I just didn't want the birch regrowing out of nowhere. Not that I think it would. Alright, so the two lumber mills are set. I'm going to pause them. So they aren't... No one works there where there's no work to be done. So talking about mega projects. Here is, my idea. We have this giant hole, and if we could fill this hole with water, that would give us a really decent amount of water to survive long-term droughts, because it's 4 deep. And in order to fill that, I think the best thing that we could do is to divert the water from here. So building levees in this spot, like this, and then floodgates that are too high, 2 units high, I should say, with levees built like this, driving the water to drop here, and then sort of free-flowing like this into this pot. It's very crude. It doesn't use explosives, but through a single or 2 double floodgates, because one floodgate might not allow enough water to go downstream, but with 2 floodgates, we could fill this entire hole of water to plan for long droughts and bad water. And in order to do this, all I need is some stairs and some levees, which is just wood, which is pretty cheap in the scheme of things. The priority of these projects I'm going to set as very low, because if there's anything else to do, I'd rather do it first for now. So what we need to do in order to build this is to get the planks to make the floodgates and stairs to be able to get access to this space up here. Which is also to say, I could wait potentially to unlock platforms, but I'm not even going to bother with that. What I'm going to do instead is build more expensive levees to get access to this upper area so that I can build up here like this. Because the straighter the path is for your district center, the more efficient your builders are going to be anyway. So what I want to do is have my builders have a very efficient path to be able to get up here to start building the upper tiers of this project. And then like stairs here, eventually building this levee that you see here. But for now, I'm going to leave that empty. Because it's cheaper. And this will allow me to gain access to the entire build section of this project, right? If I built these levees and these stairs. So that's the plan to deal with long droughts. Now, that does not, however, protect me from bad water. So let's talk about bad water real quick. Bad water is when all the water on the map tile becomes nasty and toxic. Bad water will flow out of my water source. Bad water will flow out of these weird drain things, industrial sludge drains. And the bad water will flow out of the bad water source here and the bad water source here. And bad water will flood the entire map. So in order to deal with bad water, I'm going to need to be able to divert water coming out from here away from me, which means probably doing something like this, where I have levees here, double floodgates in this spot, and levees driving the water that flows down this way out to an alternative path. And then if I just put levees here, bad water with a floodgate there, because if we take a look at the height map, right, so this is too high. If I have a too high floodgate here, I can drive the bad water around this mesa and then into this alternative river rather than flowing through the center of town, which would be disastrous. Now, with that said, these two projects are enough to protect me from early game bad water and early game droughts. This is dreadfully inefficient, or insufficient, I should say, to actually protect me from a 30-day drought. So these projects here, these mega projects, are stopgap measures until I can invest the massive amount of work and resources to build large supplies of potable water to protect us from long-term droughts and long-term bad water. So this is a stopgap. I just want to make that clear. This is not the, like, end game, I have dealt with our water situation. This is just like, I want to survive the next, I don't know, few hours of gameplay. But I think these are really good projects to be able to protect us from that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause, so it's going to be ugly, but I'm going to pause the bad water protection, because it's very unlikely that I get it with bad water really early on. It's also worth noting that your beavers can only build 2 units above their head. So they can build a wall 2 high up, but they can't build a wall 3 high up without scaffolding, or without some sort of step well, or some sort of scaffolding. So that's why this entire project requires only 2 high walls, because any higher and I would be unable to build it without like a lot of expensive scaffolding. And diagonals will hold water back. So I could build like a complete wall, but I'm doing this as cheaply as possible for as little wood as possible, because the cheaper it is, the more resource efficient it will be. And resource efficiency is the name of the game when you're on hard mode difficulty. So the other thing is, at the end of this path here, if I want to build the bad water protection, I'm also going to need a path to go over to it, right? And then I don't have a way to get up here yet either, which is kind of moot until I get a 2 high floodgate. So getting a 2 high floodgate for this section is also going to be important. Now, what I could do in this instance is to gain access to this section here, to build like stairs that get down and then back up. And as you can see, that's quite a lot of stairs to be able to build, which is why the bad water protection is kind of on hold until we have more infrastructure for it. But at the very least, I can put the pathing in, and the hypothetical path in. So, that's some grand planning, and this will protect us from early to early mid-game events, but it will be woefully inefficient and insufficient for the late game stuff. Just throwing it out there. Now, the absolute highest priority right now for building is the forester. So all the planks that I have coming off the line, I want to go to the forester first. because I'm flat out going to run out of wood. These levees are very, very, very expensive. Now, with that said, there's other building materials that you gain access to later on. Eventually, you can do dirt excavation to dig dirt up from the ground and to use dirt blocks as building blocks, which is like maybe cheaper than levees. But there's no way I'm saving up for a dirt excavator early game. I need to build it in levees because time is urgent and matters a lot more than resource efficiency. But the advantage of the dirt excavation, as long as you have 4 beavers and like mechanical power, you can just keep digging up dirt endlessly. It also creates a fortunate 4x4 wide pit, which you can fill with water too. The dirt excavator can still run submerged, or at least partially submerged. But I digress. That's not what we're talking about right now. So don't need to go in more details about that at the moment. So water will be flowing here in just a second. And we will make use of the mechanical power by unlocking the lumber mill to be run. The other thing I'm going to want to do is to build a 1-high floodgate here so that in future droughts, I get to keep a unit of water rather than 0.65 units of water for my river. That's going to help a little bit. Especially if we're drawing water from a different source than here. Because then the only thing acting upon this water will be evaporation, not active pumping. Which is going to be make a significant difference in the long run. Alright, so here comes the water. I know that the buildings are lacking power. They'll eventually get repowered. Oh, yes. The build construction site should be highest priority. Sorry, you're right. I set the workplace. I hit the wrong thing. Good catch. Alright, water wheel's flowing. This thing's making about 130 horsepower. I only need 100 horsepower to power up both lumber mills. I'm going to prioritize hauling to and from the lumber mill as the highest priority, so that the lumber mills are working at tip-top efficiency, because obviously we're going to need a lot of stairs and planks for this build. So I think actually, maybe the next thing I unlock is going to be floodgates. Just the 1-high floodgate. Because the 1-high floodgate will allow me to retain water in my river, which is also like just as important as like the sort of larger mega projects that I've got going on over here. That, and I could make use of 1-high floodgates, because if we have a 2-high section here and I put levees there and then like a 1-high floodgate, we could build this with 1-high floodgates too. So I don't necessarily need the 2-high floodgates. I could make do with 1-high floodgates. And I think I might actually build it that way intentionally, because then I only need to unlock 1-high floodgates for this project, not the 2-highs, which are just more expensive. Okay, so the reason why mechanical power stopped temporarily for these things is right now the reservoir that I have is filling up until it reaches the 65% to overflow the dams, and then the mechanical power will pick back up. So there was a brief interruption of mechanical power as a result of filling the aquifer, or the reservoir. All right, we're planking now. And then some other stairs that I could build in the near future are ones for this section here. I'm going to keep these paused for now, but just as a reminder, because this will give me access to the birch that grew up here, and it's just like free wood, more or less. Plus, we even have a pine over here, and we have trees below us if we want to try to like ramp down too. There's a lot of different options. But yep. Lumber mills are going. And we have 7 planks, which is enough for the forester alone, which is awesome. I might want to build some additional lodging so we can slowly increase our population. I'm not ready to have a big pop explosion, but just like a little pop nudge, because with these larger projects it will require more beaver power, and you know, having the additional help will, the additional hands will help, because I think I have the capacity to feed them now. In fact, it looks like a bunch of the berries just matured, so I'm going to unpause the gather flag so we can gather them up as well and stick them into storage. So as far as progress goes, Forester has 6 of 7 planks, so very soon we'll be sowing oaks, which is a long-term investment. Obviously, it will take 30 days for the oaks to grow, but once the oaks are grown, that will be a lot of renewable wood resource for us to have at our disposal. So if I did do 1 high floodgates there, in order to make that happen, I would need levees here, and then a 1 high floodgate there or here or something. So that's another thing to add if I plan on only using 1 high floodgates. I'll see how much science I accumulate, but I think that's likely. Because again, they're stopgap projects. They're not long-term projects. So I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing, more than likely. There we go. All the planks are delivered for the forester. Good. And then we'll start to get the planks for all the stairs around, because there's a lot of stairs in this project required to build. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan to build the levees straight away. Meaning to ramp over them rather than the temporary measure of leaving them unbuilt. So, let's go ahead, and I hope this isn't the wrong call. Let's go ahead with the 1 high levees here. These are going to be paused until I have the rest of the infrastructure installed. And what that does mean is these ruins are going to be like potentially submerged in water. Unless we levee the edge here to keep the water from flooding them. And then to build a floodgate here. So between these 2 floodgates, I can control the water going east or the water going west. Or south, sorry. East or south. And if we're doing it like that, we're going to need... Maybe I'll set this up like this. Because what I'm trying to do is not block these here, because I'm going to want to collect metal from them. So these will only flood if I'm trying to fill this hole, but otherwise it will be dry here. So the plan is to run it like this instead. Where we have the 1 high floodgates, 2 of them here, and 2 of them here. So I can go east or south with the water. And that should work. All right, so as far as priorities go, I'm going to have these be the lowest priority still. Just so they're not... so that the pathing infrastructure is built first. And then this forester is in. Good. Oh, and it's the I think this was the first kid that became an adult. Maybe. No, maybe it's the same name. No, that was the first child. Is now growing trees. Sweet. So once this entire plot of oaks are sown, I'm gonna change so that he keeps planting other things elsewhere. He won't ever be idle. There we go. First forester up. So in terms of priority, I think it's going to be most important to get this piece here built. This piece will give us access to all this oak wood, which is a good stopgap until the other oaks are done growing. And then this path up here giving us access to the higher watermark to be able to start moving towards getting the large scale project going. Now, I don't have a lot of builders at the moment because I have a lot of people invested in research. But as soon as I hit the 150 for the floodgate for the research, I'm going to put a floodgate here and then divert some of that manpower or beaver power over to working towards you know, building, because we're going to need a lot of builders. Oh, nice. So those stairs are done. So there's a little bit of randomness with the events that you get hit with. It's entirely possible that I get a bad water before I'm really ready for it, which would be terrible. I really don't have the capacity to deal with bad water until I have this section built. And if I got the warning for that, I could like rush and panic and throw it back to like a 20-hour work schedule to try to ready ourselves for it. But I'm really hoping that I'm only hit with the next like event or two are only droughts, because I won't really have the capacity to deal with bad water. With that said, not that I want to save scum, but if you do save scum, what will end up happening is if you save scum before the next event is announced, it could change the next event. So if I did have to revert a save, the future event, if it's beyond 3-day window, could change from bad water to drought instead. I prefer not to have to ever do that, but you know, if death is the alternative, then mayhaps there is no way to avoid it. Okay, we just had a bunch of people grow up. So now our builders and haulers are like max, meaning that all workplaces are filled, which is awesome. And we did just get floodgate. So I'm going to unlock 1 high floodgates and build floodgates. Oops. Rotate. Build floodgates here. And floodgates can synchronize height together. So once I build these floodgates, I'm going to raise the height up to 0.9, which is a good amount of water to have upstream. And these bad boys are going to be high priority. This is still highest, and this is still highest. So the floodgates are the second highest priority. Because I think more than likely the next thing we get hit with is a drought, maybe an extended drought, and being able to keep the water in a river is going to be really important. Okay, drought. So, you know what? Given that information, the floodgate's going to be the highest priority. This is high priority, because I don't foresee having a lack of wood. I don't know how long this flood is going to be, but I don't think it's likely that I'll be able to finish this part of the flood protection project in time. So I'm just going to protect us from floods this way. The other thing I could do is to build more small tank storages. as a very crude stopgap measure to be able to keep us from running out of water. So we have more water in tanks, which might carry us over a few extra days. With a population of 17, one of these tanks is almost a day of water. So like a day of water, 2 days of water, 3 days of water, you can think of it that way. So it's not great. I don't love that as a thing to work on, but like I think it's better than just being dehydrated and dead. So we'll do that as well. And if I was on easier difficulties, I would not be hit, by the way, with an event of this magnitude this early. This is because I'm on hard. So we're building these floodgates as fast as we can so that because the dams only retain 65% of the water, the floodgates can retain up to 100% of the water upstream. Are there seasons or weather changes? Yes, there are cycles. And each cycle brings a new catastrophe. So this is the cycle 2's drought. And we have, oh, you know what? Working hours, 20. Sorry, guys. But these floodgates need to get built. So, as you can see, the floodgates can adjust the amount of water that gets let. There's no point in going below 65% for these floodgates because the dam in front of them goes up to 65%, but I can raise it up to 90% or something like that. And we need 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 planks for these, and then 50 wood. I'm also going to want more builders, so I'm going to furlough 2 of my inventors, putting them in the builder role so that we can get more builders as hands on deck to prep for this this next event. So the last drought I had was what, 5-day, 7-day? How long was it? I forget. But what I'm trying to do is prep for like a longer one. Does it make sense to keep the dam when the floodgates are built? Not necessarily, but with that said, if I remove the dam, I don't have access to this section of the map. So unless I replace the dam with like something better, I'm not removing the dam because I'd rather have the path over to the west rather than 0.65 times 6 amount of units of water. Because the amount of water these dams displace is like maybe 0.05% of the total capacity of the river. Whereas losing access to all this wood would be catastrophic. So yeah, the dam stays, at least for now. They made a lot of progress so I'm going to change the working hours back to 18 because they made a lot of progress in the short amount of time. So yeah, we're obviously going to be able to get this floodgate built before the drought, without a doubt. So then the trick is to pump as much water into storages as quick as possible so that I have a lot of potable water tucked away, evaporation proof. So I'm going to even build a second water pump as well. So we have 2 pumpers trying to fill a whole bunch of tanks of water. And it's not an efficient source. It's not an efficient use of wood, but I'm building a whole bunch of these smaller tanks because they're just like cheap and easy. And we're just going to like fill the small tanks because if the river runs dry, the crops will survive for about 3 to 3.5 days, depending if they're or 2 to 3.5 days, depending on if they're sunflowers or carrots. The trees survive for 15 days. I'm not going to get hit with a 15-day drought. But we don't survive without water. So it's more important that our beavers ultimately have access to the water, than the plants. And we're, I don't know, about 40% done sowing the oaks. It's also worth noting that, like, without a source of water, if this river does run dry, stuff stops growing. And that would be really annoying for things like oak trees, because the speed at which the oaks grow determines, our future wood prospects for material. So we only have 1 floodgate left to be built. It's just about done. So hitting our time goals, no problem with a day and a half to spare. And we're going to raise the water level up to 90%. And as we approach the drought, I'll raise it up to 100%, which might cause some temporary flooding, but that's fine. As you can see, I can control the water level everywhere. And the average water level of our river is increasing up to roughly 90%, because that's what we're letting out. There'll be temporary disruptions to lumber mill power when you're changing water levels, obviously, if you're raising them, because it has to fill the volume first. And this is what happens when it spills, it floods. It will temporarily disable things that get flooded, but you know, then it comes back. It's not a big deal. All right, all of the tanks that we have built, let's go ahead and prioritize them. I'm going to build the second water pump first, and then designate all of these tanks for water in lieu of a different liquid. And because there's evaporation, any flooding that we have here will be resolved. So back here we have some flooding. Not a big deal. It will resolve itself, and it's not even blocking any working sites anyway. So it's really doesn't matter at all. And I intend to connect these two paths so that there's a pathing loop, which will make it a little bit more efficient for our beavers to traverse. Thank you for tuning in to Timberborn version 1.0, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. I am not, however, looking for feedback or backseating. If you'd like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhodamont.com has my stream schedule and countdown timer to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhodamont.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow beavers.